Hello, and welcome to the Evolve with Latoya show. Let me make sure I'm all set up. I am here with my lovely guest, Patrice Holiday Womack.
Hi.
Thank you for joining me. Yashi has been helping me behind the scenes.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm just going to make sure. Oh, this is what I forgot. Make sure the sound is good. If you're watching, drop a 1 if you can hear me. All right. We are good to go. So let's get started. It's been a day. My name is Latoya Watson. For those of you who do not know me, I am a licensed therapist, speaker, and coach. And I am so excited to be joining my dear friend as we talk about the challenges, the highs and lows of being an empty nester. And I am your host. I am the host of the Evolve with Latoya show. Patrice, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Patrice Holiday, mom, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, education professional, and all around girl.
Yes. Thank you. I'm just going to. All right. So I'm going to share just a little bit about my story. And if you've seen the show before, I usually let people know I like to be really organic. So we did not rehearse this. It's just going to flow. Please feel free to drop your questions, comments. I love the feedback, the engagement. So I will start by sharing. So my son, he went off to college in the middle of the pandemic. He was the first, his class graduated during the pandemic and started college in the middle of the pandemic. So all of that going on, it was a lot. So 2020, so preparing him to graduate. And then he also, I don't know if I told you, Patrice, he did a summer program at Southern. So all of that preparation. And of course, no one knew what was going on. So there was a lot of just unknown, having to go with the flow and giving grace to the school. And I think all in all, they did a really good job. Some of the parents, you can imagine, were not very kind. there's like, I don't know if your son's school has where they have like a Facebook group for the parents. And I'd be like, and I actually, I'm the type of person, I have sent an email to the staff. I mean, I've put it in the group too, thanking them, because there's been some things that came up, and they really get a lot of, they're at the front line with these parents. But
Absolutely.
anyways, so yeah, a lot was going on, having to show grace to them. The summer program was virtual, which was a little disappointing because he had to do like 8 hours online 4 days a week or something crazy.
Sounds like a work day.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so all of that, because so much was going on, I wasn't even able to process my emotions and how I felt about him leaving the child that I had when I was 16. My only child, my firstborn, and he's a boy. I don't have a girl, obviously, but I hear it's a little different with girls, moms and girls versus moms and sons. So I had to just like compartmentalize all of those emotions and just put it in a box, because it's like I had to focus. I'm a single parent, and I had to do what I had to do. And I actually ended up dropping down to just working part-time in my practice because that's how overwhelming it was. I was not able to handle all the demands, all the deadlines. And I see why, especially our Black people, why sometimes there are barriers with them getting started at the university level. And I don't know if you've seen that, but you've witnessed that. And that was really hard to see too, because at the time, I was a youth leader at my church, and there were some youth and their parents expressing like how confusing the process was. And I thought it was just me. I'm like,
no.
And how like the financial aid deadline and this deadline, housing, and especially because he was going to live on campus, and there was not that many resources. I mean, his high school, they did a pretty decent job with trying to prepare us. They started preparing us from his junior year.
Yeah, that's not uncommon. They start preparing from junior year. But I think what happens is they give you these tools and they give you these websites to go to, and then either they fall upon deaf ears, like you just forget about it because life circumstances happen, or you don't even realize the reality of what's about to happen. So that's something to think about too.
Yeah. So I really felt for the families who didn't have as much exposure or experience to the whole college life like I did. Even though I didn't live on campus, I was still familiar with some of it. But yeah, it was a lot. And I don't know, I don't want to blame the colleges. I don't know what could have been done differently. Even with the pandemic, without the pandemic, it's still a very confusing process, I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, folks, if anybody works at a college, that is some feedback for y'all to bring back to admin. But on a sidetrack, share a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. So I was also a teen mom. I had my son at 19 turning 20. Our birthdays are a week apart. I was actually on campus, pregnant, living in the dorm, and trying to finish up school prior to his birth, which was in the summer. I was in a situation where I knew that I was going to be a single mother because his dad had made that decision that he didn't want to be a father. So at 19, almost 20, I had to grow up very, very fast. And it was just me and him. It was me and him for years. That was like my baby. I didn't have much of a childhood after having him. And I made that choice. I made the choice to become a mother. And so I felt like I had to deal with it. I wanted to be the best mother ever. I made sure that I did everything with him. I made sure that he was well taken care of, having 2 jobs and commuting to school. And, it's funny because everybody who knows me kind of jokes and says, you know why he's so smart? Because you used to read college books to him as an infant, as opposed to those books that you would normally read to a toddler. So it was just me and him for years. And eventually I got married and I had another child 8 years later. But it was me and him. And he was always there, and we didn't do sleepovers and stuff like that. So I had no experience of him being away from home. So when it was time for him to pick a college, just in full transparency, he did not choose the college that I would have chosen for him.
Yeah, you wanted him to go in state, right?
I wanted him to go to a HBCU.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And don't forget, I won't say where I work, but I work at a university. And the tuition is free. I'm still salty about that.
I would be too. I know. It's a lot.
But luckily he did go on an academic scholarship. But I'll save that part for later because I want to kind of piggyback on something that you said about the process being difficult to navigate. And that's one of those things. And so when it was time to make a decision, I just knew he was going to choose the school that I wanted him to go to, right? I had been putting it in his head. And, because it was during the pandemic, we didn't get an opportunity to visit the schools.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
it was all virtual.
It was like virtual or not at all. So during the spring break of his senior year, I was able to take him to the school that he's at now. And, it was you only could bring one person. It was like, mask up and, sanitize yourself and all that. And it was very limited in what we could see and do. However, I think that is what was the tipping point for him. So he had all this fear of the unknown of going to an HBCU, but I was able to bring him to this one school, and he was able to see just get a glimpse of what life would be like at that school. And I think that that's what helped him make his decision, but it wasn't my decision. Right? And he put his foot down and he said, I'm going here. And I cried.
Of course. Yeah, I kind of skipped that part about all my tears. We'll go back to that. It was hard. Yeah.
You know what? Him being, 2 hours away is a situation in itself. And I'm sure you can relate to them not being physically in front of you, where you can touch them, where you can see them, where you can, if I'm being all honesty, helicopter mom syndrome, right? Like, did you do your homework? Did you?
We were both helicopter mom. I used to check because I was so fearful D would miss deadlines. I was checking his email for college. Like, Southern was sending emails, and I was like, at the beginning, he was like delayed with like, oh, I'll check it later. I'm like, you need to be checking your email every day. So then I just started checking it. Oh my God, I started checking it.
You know what the hardest part about all of this is? Letting go.
Yeah. Letting them be independent, having that autonomy.
Right. And you know what? It also brings like a reflection of you as a mother and as a person, because you start to doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Did I raise him right?
Did I teach him everything
right? Is he going to be equipped to be out in this world that we know can sometimes not be good?
Yeah.
You just think about that kind of stuff all the time. And I know for me, Miss Overthinker, I'm like, every 5 minutes, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, where is he? What's happening?
Did you ever have a location tracker on him?
No, I didn't.
So iPhone. I did that. Well, I did that from when he was in high school. No. We share, it's not a tracker. I shouldn't say that, but for those of you who are iPhone users, Akila says she can relate so much to this. Yeah, you're a fellow empty nester. Where are the other empty nesters? So much love to y'all. iPhone has where you can share your location. And so during middle high school, we had that. In junior year, my therapist was like, I think you need to start, like, you need to turn that off and start to prepare, because when he's on college, what are you going to do? Are you going to go and be checking, like, what can you do? Even with like curfew, like when he lived with me, he had a curfew, but then it's on college campus. I can't enforce the curfew. I'm not there.
I think so. Your son's school is much smaller than my son's school. My son goes to a huge university.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
And so what I did was I put him. Yeah, I said what I said. I put him in like a first year experience dorm.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they have different dorms and areas, and it's kind of like the first year experience. So it's a little bit more structured. It's a little bit, it's like, okay, you ain't wake up for class today. What happened?
Oh,
right. So it's like,
because he was in the first year. Yeah.
Experience too. Yeah. They have that at the school. And so like it was like a 1 credit course and they have to take it.
Right.
But I want to share a story with you about what happened when I dropped him off to school. So everything was good. I was like, oh, you got all your stuff, we good. You pack up the car, 2 cars actually.
Yeah.
You got your food, you got your water, you got all that stuff, right? Everything was great until it was time for me to actually leave him. He kept saying, can we go to Walmart? Can we go to Best Buy? I need an Ethernet cord. I'm like, we have Wi-Fi now. He was just making so many different excuses as to why I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
Now I was okay. I wasn't crying.
At that point, yeah.
I wasn't doing anything. We had met, the roommate came, several hours later. So
and did you have other people move on campus with, like, did you have other family with you?
Yes. So who was with me was my husband and my mother.
Okay.
So it was the three of us and my daughter also. And that was important also for her to be there so that she could see the campus and so that she can start to think about her career, even though she's, she has a long way to go.
Yeah.
So he just kept making so many different excuses as to why I couldn't leave. He's like, I need more water. I'm like, you don't need no more water. Like, we gotta go. It's getting ready to get real dark, and we don't know where we at. It's a 2-hour drive. And I said something to him, and he snapped at me. Now an 18-year-old boy, but I will say this: my kid has never snapped at me. He snapped at me. He said, I heard what you said. And I knew at that moment that I had to take a step back because his anxiety about moving into this new place 2 hours away from home was even more than anything any fear or any anxiety that I could ever have.
Yeah.
And so even though I wanted to cry and scream and say, my baby, I had to be strong because I knew when he snapped at me, that was his way of telling me, Mommy, I'm scared.
Yeah.
So I didn't cry. I hugged him. No, I hugged him. Right? You gotta be strong, right? In front of him, right? I hugged him and I told him I'm proud of him. And I told him he's gonna be great. And I told him that he's equipped for everything. And I gave him all the affirmations that he would need. Right? And I let him go.
Yeah. Right. Is that all you can do? There's something you said I wanted to go back to. I should have wrote it down. And how is this even? Oh, when did he move on campus? 2021 or 22?
2021.
Okay, yeah.
So it was August 2021. So it's kind of still pandemic-y, kind of.
Yeah. No, it was.
They had a lot of restrictions still.
Yeah.
But it was less restrictive than when your son went in 2020. God, I know. But yeah.
We had like a schedule.
Yeah, we still had a schedule.
Oh,
like
you did?
It was between this time and this time. They would only let X number of families into the building at a time. And he lived on the 20th floor. We joked that it was a penthouse. But let me tell you. So on the way back, all was well. I didn't cry. I listened to my music.
Do you think you were like numb? Like what?
No, I don't know what happened. I just had to accept it. I had to accept that my baby wasn't a baby and that I had done everything that I could as a mother to prepare him for this moment. And although I had my doubts and all kinds of things were running through my mind, I literally had to prepare myself and just say, you know what? I had to give him to God.
Yeah.
I had to say, you know what, God, you got this.
Than I
you got this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you got this, right? You got him. He good, right? Okay, fine. So I'm home and he texts me that night, Mom, what's your Netflix password? The things that teenage boys think about. Plus, he was probably in his room in culture shock because there ain't no PlayStation and Xbox and all these different things because I made him leave that stuff home.
Oh, you did?
I absolutely did.
Deep.
You did?
I did.
Oh my, no. I was like, that stuff is not coming.
I didn't even think of all that. I mean, even the preparation list of things to buy.
Yeah.
All of that was so like we forgot stuff. Yeah, we had to go to Walmart.
Yeah.
It was a lot for a single parent. Like, and I had, my parents helped more emotionally, but as far as getting stuff and all that, and there was other stuff that some of my friends who lived on campus was telling me like, oh, you need to get him this and that, mattress pad, all sorts of stuff that I had no idea because I never lived on campus.
Right.
So you were probably a little bit more prepared than I was.
But it was so many years ago.
Yes, that's true.
And things have changed in so many different ways. And don't forget he was in a different state.
Yeah.
Right. But so the next day, I text him. He didn't respond.
Oh, I think you told me this.
I did. And I text him again. And he didn't respond. And then I called him. And it went straight to voicemail. I lost it. I was like, what if it's police brutality? As dramatic as that sounds, that's what happens. I'm like, he's not in a town with a lot of people that look like him.
Yeah.
I was like, is he okay? Is he stranded? Does he know how to get an Uber? Is he on a bus? Yeah. It was so hard. Like, when I say I lost it, y'all, I think I screamed. 5 hours later, he must have turned on his phone or something. Hi, mommy. Immediately, I wanted to say, where were you? Why didn't you answer? I know. I said it, but I didn't say it in a way that would make him feel any type of way or for him to know that I was worried. I remember calling my mother. Like, I literally was in my room, curled up, sobbing. Just thinking like, oh my God, I left him there and something happened to him. I wouldn't know what to do with my life. I wouldn't know how to cope with that. Hi, mommy, he calls. I said, I've been calling you. Where were you? I had to get myself together. You know, like whatever tears I had or whatever happened. Because again, it was 5 hours later. And I'm going to tell you, I was still in that bed 5 hours later. Yeah. I had to say to him, hey, where were you? He was like, oh, we had an activity and we were doing community service. And I forgot to charge my phone last night and my phone died. And so I'm just getting back to my room and I'm getting ready to go to dinner. It was at that point that I realized that if I didn't get myself together, I would be sick. Right? Because me being in that bed, sobbing, you got to trust God.
Yeah, that's all we can do during those situations. I mean, I'm surprised you didn't drive up there.
Well, no. I'm not going to say I didn't think about it. I did. It crossed
your mind, I'm sure.
I did.
Did I think D processed it a little differently and didn't, I think again, didn't want to be expressive with sharing how he was homesick. I think he was a little homesick, but he would come home every weekend and then he was not participating in the activities on campus. And I'm like, what? He's like, there's nothing going on. It's COVID. And so I gave him a little grace, but second year when he started that, I was like, no, you don't need to come home every weekend. Because you want them to, part of the reason I think why we want them to live on campus is to experience the independence, the college life. Like there's a lot of positive, factors, building positive connections. A lot of people, like you were saying, you have longtime friends from college, the different activities, the community service. And I feared D was missing out because he wants to come home every weekend.
I think it's two things. I think it's just knowing him. He wants to make sure you're okay.
Yeah, I could see that too. Yeah.
And then, he's closer. He's closer. So he feels like, oh, okay, well, I have my school life, but I also have my home life.
Yeah. And he was like adamant. I want to say adamant, but he really struggled with wanting to make friends on campus. I don't know if he felt he was abandoning some of his friends, from high school or whatever, because that was also a piece.
You know what though? This generation is different.
Yeah.
Right? They're a little bit less social than maybe our generation because it's just the nature of how their world works, right? They're texting, right? So they lose that intimate, face-to-face interaction. And then guess what happens when you're in college? Now you got a roommate.
Yeah, I know.
Good, bad, or indifferent. You gotta get along with somebody.
He had issues with his roommate.
Oh, honey.
But he never built true
relationships.
Yeah.
I think it's different.
Yeah.
No, my kid is kind of a loner. Well, there's a girlfriend right now, so. But his roommate, to me, I was like, he probably never seen a Black person a day in his life. In his show.
Yeah.
You know, so he lived in a 6-person suite. So it was like the 3 bedrooms, and then they share the bathroom. And so he had, and everybody seems like they're from New York. Right? So you got the Bronx, you got the Bronx type of attitude, you got Brooklyn, you got upstate. So it was the gamut. You had like the super, super smart, geeky kid, and my kid kind of falls somewhere in the middle where he's not really that social. But what I did notice is that he started to gravitate to people who he felt comfortable with. Right? And it's just funny how that kind of stuff evolves. Yeah. So I don't think we have anything to worry about with them making friends. I think that they eventually find their people.
I know. I'm very happy. 3rd year, he's actually in a dorm. I think they're all Black men.
Okay.
And he hasn't had that the first 2 years. I think last year, it's interesting. It was mostly Hispanic. In the first year, it was mostly white. Actually, he had a single. His first year, he wasn't in a suite. But I'm happy to see that because he has not found his people, and I'm hoping and I pray. And I met one of their moms when I was there, and it's such a difference. 3rd year moving in, it's like bye. I'm about to go on a trip. Like bye. And so, well, even after a while, the first year, I mean, I don't know. There was moments I would go in his room and I would just lay on his bed or stuff like that. The first year, but third year.
I want to expand on something you said. You said I would go in his room and lay on his bed. Ladies and gentlemen, that first night when they not there and you walk past that room, whether it's messy or not, you gonna feel it. And you know what I want to say about that?
I'm so exhausted. I don't know what to.
You be exhausted. But you're going to walk past and you're going to feel a sense of pride. Yeah. Because they're gone and
you did that.
I did that. I did that, right? Because the odds was against us, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Statistically, the odds were against us, but we did that. Mm-hmm. But then there's also going to be this emptiness that you feel. Yeah. And another thing, you're going to be alone. Yeah. You're going to be alone in that feeling.
You had your husband. And your daughter. I was literally physically alone.
But okay, fine.
Still,
okay, that's fine.
No, but I don't want to minimize your experience.
No, I don't think you are. I don't think you are.
Okay.
But this is what I'm gonna say about me having a husband and me having my daughter.
Yeah.
I was alone.
Yeah. They can't relate to that same.
They don't have loss. When you have multiple children, you have a different bond with your children, and it's a stepfather situation. I'm not saying anything's wrong with the relationship. I'm just saying that there's something about me being a 19-year-old scared little girl. Let's keep it real, scared little girl, and becoming a mother and seeing him in my arms, right, and understanding that my life matters more because I have somebody that I have to look after, right? And I know you can relate to that too. Mm-hmm. And so there's something in your heart. It's almost like a piece of your heart is missing. Mm-hmm. It's almost like something inside of you is gone. Mm. And you're mourning that little boy for us, because we have boys. You're mourning the fact that your little boy is not a little boy anymore. And it's like a roller coaster. It's like, yeah, I'm proud I did that.
Yeah, it is a roller coaster. Like grieving. It's grieving.
It's the stages of grief, right? Yeah. And then you go through the change curve, right? It's like denial, right? You go through everything. Yeah. Acceptance.
Negotiation.
Yes.
Depression.
Right. Sadness. And your son D, he's in year 3 and my son's in year 2. You can follow me on Instagram, my personal Instagram page, PYTricey. That's PYTRICEY. Or you can follow my business pages, The Woman Within You on Instagram, and then Diversity is now on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Yes, thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining in. And I always forget to share my where people can follow me.
Yeah, where can people follow you?
So I'm on LinkedIn also and Facebook, Latoya Watson. And then on Instagram, I am at EMDR Intensives and Single Ladies Coaching. Thank y'all for joining in. Feel free to drop your questions and we'll come back and answer. May you continue to evolve. Bye.